Do you believe that characters drive plot?
No, I think characters definitely drive plot. It's because what we're showing, what we're telling, we're showing like these characters, like their reaction to what's happening around them, what's happening to them, right? I feel like if you have it the other way around, it's just so contrived. It's like you don't you want something to happen to a character, and based on who that character is, they respond, and then that response leads to the next action. It leads to the next thing. You don't want to have to just hit certain plot points because it's mandated. I want to have Jim and George fight because the plot demands it. No, they have to fight because there's an actual conflict between these two characters. Jim did something that George didn't like, and because of George's character, he's going to react in, say, a physical way, right? It has to be natural, it has to be organic. So character definitely drives the plot.
Is there one character, whether it's in your screenplays or your books, that you were very precious about and it was hard for you to let bad things happen to?
Oh, that's all the time. That happens to so many of my characters. Yeah, actually, in Potter's Field, there's a character, and I'm not going to go into detail because I don't want it to be ruined. But I will say there's a character that I held on to for a very long time. I mean, through numerous drafts. This was a character that essentially lived to the end of the script. Just because I thought it was cool and funny, and yeah, I thought it worked. But then I realized that this poor character had to go, and I think that the story works better because of it. So yeah. I mean but even in like the romantic comedy, I have bad things happen to characters that but here's the funny thing. I think that the worst things happen to the characters that I love the most. Because I think I want the audience to really feel for those characters. Like those are the characters, you want to come away saying, oh, wow, like that hurt my heart, or I can't believe that happened, to this person. And
Interesting. So if it's not a character that you really are invested in, maybe the stuff that happens is just minor.
I mean, I guess, relatively speaking, you could say that. I mean, I'm invested in all of my characters. I love all of my characters. I mean, there are some that I love more than others, but I mean, I do love all of my characters. And so, I do want that feeling for all of them. I want the audience to care for all of them, even the bad ones. I even give the bad ones, the villains or, the monsters. I even give them moments where it's like, all right, I might not really like that person, but I understand, or I can, some way, empathize with them. So, I mean, Potter's Field, we've got these undead creatures running around, but they're monsters, but you feel for them because you learn what happened to them. You see, so.
What advice do you have for writing the antagonist?
They can't be just like cookie cutter, one-dimensional monsters. You got to give them some depth, One of the things, I don't remember where I first heard it, but, the antagonist is the protagonist of their own story. They believe that they are the good guy. Even something, Thanos, for instance, with the Avengers. Clearly he's the bad guy. He wants to decimate all life, or half, of all life in the universe. But he believes he's doing something noble. And that's the thing. You have to give your villain these layers. You have to give your antagonist these layers. Make them believe that what they're doing is the right thing, or that they've got, I don't want to say noble reasons, but that they've, in their mind, the reasons for their actions are justified.
In Real Genius, do we see that in this professor?
Huh. Interestingly enough, I think that the professor is he's pretty one-dimensional, to be honest, because his goal is just to sell this laser, this technology to the government. But you know what, we do get some layers, like, you know, we learn that he hates popcorn. It's a small thing, but it plays out in the end. We also learn that he sleeps with his students. You know, he has a fling with one of his young students. So there are little you know, pieces here and there, but yeah, I don't know that we would root for him. I tell you though, who we would root for in Real Genius that could be considered villainous, which would be Kent, the bully, who's essentially the professor's underling. Like, I think he's like the TA or whatever. Ultimately, Kent just wants to be liked. He wants to be accepted by the cool kids, and that comes out. So if we're looking for a villain example in Real Genius, I would say it's him. You know, he's doing all the things that he thinks will make him popular. You know, he'll be liked. He'll also please the professor because he wants to do that. He thinks he's doing all the right things for all the right reasons, you know. And in the end, in a weird kind of way, he gets accepted by our heroes. You know, he's embraced by them, and it's, yeah.
So he's redeemable in some sense, whereas the professor character is just, all we know about him is just he makes horrible choices.
Right, yeah.
Okay, and he feels no remorse for them.
Right, right.
What mistakes do writers make in writing their characters?
I think that one big mistake is trying to recreate something or recreate a character that they've seen elsewhere, right? It's great to draw inspiration from. You know, as I mentioned, my protagonist in Potter's Field, you know, was inspired by Eddie Murphy, but I wasn't trying to recreate, like, I wasn't recreating Reggie Hammond from 48 Hours. You know, I was taking elements that I thought worked for that character and seeing how they could work for my character. But I think that a lot of writers try to recreate characters wholesale, and you can't do that. You know, you have to find something unique about your characters. And I think that that uniqueness comes from within. You know, you have to, this kind of goes back to why I think I love all of my characters, is because every character that I write has a piece of me. And I know that that's probably cliche, but I mean, like, really have a piece of me. Like, there's always some aspect about these characters that's an aspect of me. And I think that that's what a lot of writers should do, is they need to find like those aspects that they can imbue in their characters to make the characters more unique.
So if I'm a writer that's so inspired by a story and I want to make something so similar, it would be better if I just did a fan fiction, maybe story based on this, rather than try to infuse that same kind of character into my own world.
You know, that's the thing. If you're trying to tell an original story, no, create that character. Like, you know, create that original character. Can be inspired by, you know, like whatever, but imbue that character with your uniqueness. If you're writing fan fiction, you're trying to play in somebody else's sandbox. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that that's great, but you're dealing with a world, and you're dealing with characters and relationships and things that have already been established. Even if you create like a new, like if I'm writing Star Wars fanfic and I create a whole new Jedi character to throw into that fanfic, I'm still dealing with the world that was created by Lucas and that's been shepherded by, you know, so many others. But if you want to create like a truly original character, you've got to tell your own story. And I think that in putting yourself in your characters and making your characters unique, like that's really telling your story. That's really telling your truth, because this is coming from you as opposed to working within parameters that have already been established. You see what I'm saying?
What questions should a writer be asking themselves about their characters?
What makes their character tick? Why is this character doing what they're doing? When a character, every story is about a character that wants something. Why does that character want it? You think of the opposing forces to getting what you want. Why are those the opposing forces that give your character a hard time? Just you've gotta really put yourself in your character's place. Like, what can you do? How can you navigate this world and these obstacles in order to get what you want? This is why I say you have to imbue a portion of you, because this is going to be like, this is you as a writer. You are going on this journey along with your protagonist. You are the protagonist essentially, right? So what would you do? How can you face these obstacles? How can you face whatever adversaries, come your way, in order to achieve that goal? Why is that goal so important that you would endure all this conflict?
And to remember that the antagonist is the protagonist of their own story.
Of their own story. Yeah.
Right, right. What suggestions do you have for writers developing character?
I would say that writers definitely need to know themselves so that they can dig deep. But also, I would suggest writers pay attention to those around them. Whereas, I like to give my characters characteristics of me, I also draw inspiration from people I've met, my friends, my family, and I think that that's really important, because when you pay attention to other people, you just kind of pick up on everything about them, from the way they speak, the way they carry themselves, like their posture or whatever. Even little decisions will inform you, tell you so much about a person, whether they take sugar in their coffee or not, which then, it can lead you down a rabbit hole. It's just like, well, why doesn't she take sugar in her coffee? That's an interesting choice, and you can just go so many places. But I think that paying attention to other people is really key to developing a wide variety of characters.
Do you find that something when you're out in the world that you are constantly sort of observing, just to see from a character's perspective, not necessarily like judging someone, but just sinking in how someone's approaching the barista and asking, maybe they're whispering for their order and we don't know why they're whispering.
Right. No, absolutely. And that's a great example, because that's a choice. That's a choice that person made, was to whisper to the barista, as opposed to, just loudly, yes, I would like a Fente, whatever.
Right.
And those choices inform character. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Sure, I'm always intrigued by people that are really picky about their orders, and they're very specific, and they seem very concerned. And I remember we went to some place where the man wanted to watch them cut up the pizza at one of these pizza, and I know this seems trivial, but to me it spoke volumes about who this guy was, and they weren't cutting it up right, and he was upset. This was just one of these made to order. So you just then wonder, what is his life like outside of that pizza place?
Exactly.
If he was so concerned with the way they were cutting the pizza, and this is one of these made to order places. It's not even like, people, it's quick, fast, and so just watching little interactions like that.
Yeah.